It's 1957 in the Elvis Presley story. The season, early spring. Russia explodes its fifth nuclear device in under 2 weeks. The Suez Canal is closed. Martial law is in force in Indonesia. The president of Vietnam is visiting Eisenhower in Washington, and Vice President Nixon's in Africa. It's almost as if Elvis took the title of his next million-selling hit from the state of world affairs, except that Elvis's record is a happy one. Gordon Stoker of the Jordanaires talks about how much fun he and Elvis had making it.
While I was doing All Shook Up with Presley, I was just facing him on another mic, you see. And all the time I'm doing it, I had this little, yay, yay, I'm all shook up. I had these little harmony parts I had to do with him. Of course, now the recording these days, you overdub it, so to speak. Like Presley would have put his voice on first, and then I would have put my harmony part on second. But in those days, we didn't do it. We did it all at the same time. During the entire recording, Presley tried to break me up. He'd either pick at me, wink at me, or stick his finger in my mouth, or just anything he could do, you see, to try to, that's right, to try to break me up, and try to, and only one place on the entire record, if you'll ever hear the record, at the very end of the record, where I say, yay, yay, I'm all shook up, he did break me up at that point. And if you play the record, you'll hear it.
Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I met you like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, my hand is shaky and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet. Who do you think of when you have such luck? I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But please don't ask me what's on my mind. I'm a little mixed up, but I feel fine. When I met a girl that I faced, my heart beats so it scares me to death. When she touched my hand, oh, what a chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah. My tongue gets tied when I try to speak. My inside shake like a leaf on a tree. There's only one cure for this body of mine. That's to have that girl that I love so fine. She touched my head and what a chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah. I'm all shook up.
Thanks to Elvis, things really were shook up in Nashville. Billboard magazine's country music editor, Bill Williams, explains what happened.
You recall, country music was very strong in the early 1950s, and then it went into almost a total eclipse. There was a period when the rock music just literally took over. Country music suffered considerably from this for a number of years, and I think the resentment stemmed from the fact that they felt Elvis was a prime factor in this surge of rock music and the subsequent decline of country music.
Elvis's influence was being felt in many areas. Gordon Stoker and Ray Walker of the Jordanaires share their memories.
There were no vocal groups in New York, Hollywood, or Nashville making a fat living, and I mean fat livings, doing vocal backing on records until Presley came along. When Presley came along, everyone who recorded, male or female, they wanted vocal backing on their records. This also goes for guitar players. Do you know that the guitar industry never enjoyed such a huge success until Presley hit it big and playing the guitar? Everyone wanted a guitar, and every guitar manufacturer in this country was swamped with orders. This even goes for record players.
Record players, right. And radios,
these are areas that people don't even give Presley credit for. Record players never saw such a day as they opened up when Presley came on the scene.
He put, someone said he put more people to work in businesses he wasn't even connected with than anybody in the history of the world.
Of course, Elvis's dollar value was regarded highly in Hollywood. So he was hurried into another film, the first of several which were especially written for Elvis and based rather loosely on his own rags to riches story. In this one, Loving You, he played a country vocalist, singing 7 songs, enough to fill one side of his 3rd album. The title song, another in a long line of sweet ballads, was an immediate hit.
I will spend my whole life through loving you, just loving you. Winter, summer, springtime too, loving you, loving you. Makes no difference where I go or what I may do. You know that I've always been loving you, just you. Seen with someone new, don't be blue, don't you be blue. I'll be faithful, I'll be true, always true, true to you. I'll always be loving you.
Elvis's most unusual merchandising impact in '57 seemed to be in the novelty field. His ex-manager, Bob Neal, recalls how Colonel Parker fattened Elvis's bank account by licensing manufacturers to produce Elvis Presley merchandise.
During the first big boom and flush of success, I know that aside from tremendous record royalties and personal appearance fees, the first pictures, there's no telling how much money the Colonel worked in the licensing things, you know, on all of the items that were licensed, from shirts, guitars, you name it. You know, there was a licensing thing there, and the Colonel gave me a lecture on it one day because I was talking about it in relation to doing the same thing for another artist should it arise, and the Colonel gave me the rule at that time, you know, about you figure about how much possibly this thing could produce in royalties, say, for a year, and then you ask for that as cash advance, non-returnable, so you get your money in front, you see.
The array of Elvis Presley product available in '57 boggled the imagination, in dimension and in diversity. It was the ultimate teenage shopping list. There were Elvis Presley bobby socks, Elvis Presley saddle shoes, Elvis Presley skirts, sweaters, charm bracelets, bubblegum cards, Bermuda shorts, pajamas, diaries, wallets, belts, bolo ties, Toreador pants, gloves, mittens, T-shirts, pictures that glowed in the dark, plaster of Paris busts, hairbrushes, pillows, combs, stuffed hound dogs, dancing dolls, lapel buttons saying, "I like Elvis," lapel buttons saying, "I hate Elvis," sneakers, colognes, greeting cards, photograph albums, hats, ballpoint pens, necklaces, official fan magazines, pocketbooks, identification bracelets, lipsticks in 3 shades, Hound Dog Orange, Heartbreak Hotel Pink, and Tutti Frutti Red. And that's just the beginning of the list. There were 78 products in all. And the man Colonel Parker placed in charge of teenage consumerism was saying $55 million worth of the stuff would be in the American home by the end of '57. Then Elvis recorded a song whose title added still another product to the list.
Baby, let me be your little teddy bear. Put it chain around my neck, leave me anywhere. Let me be, let him do. Oh, teddy bear, I don't want to be a tiger. swag display too rough. I don't wanna be a lion, 'cause lions ain't the kind you love enough. What does you wanna be? Your teddy bear. Put a chain around my neck and leave me anywhere. Let me be, oh let him do. Teddy bear. Baby, let me creep around you every night. Run your fingers through my hair and cuddle me real tight. Oh, let me be, oh, let him be your teddy bear. I don't want to be a tiger, 'cause tigers play too rough. I don't want to be a lion, 'cause lions ain't the kind you love enough. You wanna be your teddy bear. Put a chain around my neck and leave me anywhere. Oh, let me be, oh, let him be. Oh, teddy bear. Oh, let me be, oh, let him be your teddy bear. I just wanna be your teddy bear.
With the fame and fortune, there also came some doubt and worry at home. Elvis's mother's close friend, Fay Harris, tells how Mrs. Presley felt.
It was kind of disturbing to her and to all that was around her, because it was so hard for... They was beginning to get up into society and, beginning to build, and there was so much going on in that place around there till you didn't know hardly what to do, and there was always somebody coming, knocking on the doors, wanting in, and she had answered doorbells and answered doors until she was give out, and she told me, she said, I'm glad you're here so you can answer the doorbell for me a while. Mrs. Presley told me that she would be glad that if Elvis would just quit where he was at, said Elvis would have an independent living and put him in a furniture store and marry some good girl and have a child where she could see it and be with it, and that she'd be the happiest person in the world if he would do that. That she wanted him to quit and come home and stay with them.
In a moment, the Elvis Presley story offers 26,700 reasons why Elvis couldn't stop. The Elvis Presley story takes you back to August 1957. This is the sound of an audience in Vancouver, British Columbia, nearly 27,000 strong. You are listening to the actual sound of Presley Mania. Years later, in the middle 60s, a similar greeting will be given the Beatles. But in '57, it's a startling, frightening phenomenon never before evidenced in entertainment history. We asked Elvis's drummer, DJ Fontana, what he felt when he and Elvis faced those hysterical crowds.
Actually, you didn't have any freedom because you couldn't hear anything. It didn't make any difference what we done. They couldn't hear him anyhow. The kids were screaming and hollering, stomping, and flash bulbs just by the millions. You just see them just going off everywhere. It looked like explosions everywhere in the building.
Guitarist Scotty Moore talks about an audience in St. Louis.
One girl tried to crawl up on the stage, and of course the policeman, told her she'd have to get back. In a few minutes she'd try it again. And she finally, after 2 or 3 attempts, she finally got past the policeman and managed to crawl up on the stage and grab a hold of Elvis's arm or something. And this started somebody else headed for the stage. And right in the middle of the song, I don't remember what song it was, but we realized that here come 1,000 people at you.
Two of the Jordanaires, first Gordon Stoker and then Ray Walker, remember still other dangerous times and how Elvis usually escaped injury.
The crowds were wild. I remember in Kansas City, Kansas, the crowd broke through the police lines and headed toward the stage, and Presley turned around to us and said, "Run for your life," and this is what we did. we all took off. We ran back through and got in the car and took off. And the crowd hit the car just about the time we were leaving. We lost all of our arrangements. We lost all of our instruments, clothes, or anything else.
Elvis had one thing that he does that it's a good thing for his life that he did, because at the end of the show, of course, when he'd do his last number and walk off, the kids would be screaming, pandemonium, break loose, and they'd expect him to come out and take a curtain call. Well, he didn't have time to take a curtain call, because if he came out and took a curtain call and didn't do another number, they'd rush the stage. So while they were waiting and applauding and trying to get him to come out again, he'd hit the car, and if he hadn't, it'd have killed him.
All right. Elvis has left the building. I've told you absolutely straight up to this point, you know that he has left the building. He left the stage and went out the back with the policeman, and he is now gone from the building.
That was Horace Logan of the Louisiana Hayride addressing a Shreveport audience. And this is the voice of Scotty Moore, talking about audiences everywhere.
There were a lot of times we thought we were in danger. It was fun to him after a show to sign autographs, joke, so forth. But these autograph crowds got bigger and bigger and bigger. One time at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida, we played out in the football field off a flat stage. And the crowd absolutely just mobbed the stage. They had pinned Elvis up against the wire mesh fence.
Adding his voice, Elvis himself, talking at a 1957 press conference.
When you get caught in a mob or something, have you ever been seriously hurt by the girls?
Yes, I've been scratched and bitten and everything. Huh?
What do you think about it? What do you think about being scratched?
What do I think of? Well, I just accept it with a broad mind, because actually they don't intend to hurt you. I mean, it's not that. They want pieces of you for souvenirs.
Elvis may have turned it into a joke, but the Jordanaires' Gordon Stoker remembers the concerts more seriously.
The wilder the crowd, the closer he would stay to us, because someone asked him, a reporter asked him, said, "Why do you always work so close to the musicians and to the Jordanaires?" And he said, "Because I feel more protected if I'm closer to them." And on some numbers, he just worked just right almost up in our face, because he would feel more secure this way.
But the way you act,
As the adoration increased, so did the animosity. People began suing Elvis, saying he stole their songs. Ministers and newspapermen continued their harsh criticism. Politicians forbade the performance of rock and roll in hundreds of communities. And jealous males took pokes at him. Gordon Stoker recalls one of those incidents and reveals what Elvis thought.
A guy walked up and said, "Hey, aren't you Elvis Presley?" And he hauled off and hit him because his wife had fallen in love with Elvis through his recordings and this, that, and the other. So you see, just this is the reason that he eats in his room, because Elvis doesn't like to be a part of confusion. As a matter of fact, Elvis does not like to be a part of arguments, fusses, or anything like that.
As a means of protecting himself when necessary, Elvis studied karate. But his friends say he was a gentleman. The Jordanaires' Ray Walker reminisces.
The story is told that he was walking out of Radio City Music Hall one day, and a janitor or someone there in the hall spoke to him, and he didn't hear him. Didn't hear him at all, and walked on, because they walk rather fast. You have to. Once you get started, you got to keep rolling. And somebody mentioned the fact that he spoke, and Elvis, they weren't putting him down or anything, but Elvis said, "Who spoke?" And they said, "Well, that man back there sweeping the floors." And he went back and spoke to him. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I've never heard him address any man, either from position or age, or any woman, period, that he didn't say yes, sir, or no, sir, or Mr. or Mrs., or thank you, ma'am, or thank you, sir. He's extremely courteous.
By now, Elvis's first gospel records were on the charts. His friend Cecil Blackwood offers an appraisal.
In following Elvis through the years, a lot of times I understand that they would be in a hotel during the night, and Elvis would call the whole group together, whoever he was with, and he would talk about the things of God to his friends, even after he had reached stardom.
Oh, well, tired and so weary, but I must go alone. Here the Lord comes and called me weary, oh, yes. Where the morning so bright and the lamb is alive, and the night that is black as a sea. Oh, there will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me. Oh Lord, I pray. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble I see. There will be peace in the valley for me. Well, there will be gentle, and the wolves will be tame, and the lion shall live down by the land. Oh, yes. And the beast from the wild shall be led by a child, and I'll be changed from this creature that I am. There will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me. Oh Lord, I pray. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, oh my darling, no trouble I see. There will be peace in the valley for me,
Next, the Elvis Presley story goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. spotlighting one of the most peculiar byproducts of Presley mania, novelty songs which were written not for Elvis, but about him.
Elvis Presley.
The Elvis Presley story resumes with a medley of some of the strangest songs in musical history.
E.L.V.I.S. For Elvis. Yes, yes, yes.
Born in a town way down in Mississippi, gave a rock and roll cat that almost flips me. Started into rockin' at the age of 5. Mr. Presley taught the country how to jump and jive. Hey, hey, Mr. Presley, where you gonna rock tonight?
When I see her swoon with that doggone guy, yeah, my baby's just crazy about Elvis, but she ain't crazy about me. Hey, you cats, come around and lend an ear. Come on and flip your hats for the big boy of the year. He's got a record that's gonna make you wanna cheer. Elvis Presley, for president. For president. I'll bring Elvis a more sugar. I'll bring Andy and some new cuts by the crew cuts will come in handy. Yada da 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 da.
But I got a new job now and I'm a learning real fast. I'm a driving the bus for the Tupelo, Mississippi Flash. And his Cadillac, I'm driving that for him too.
Rally round at the jukebox after school and dig that guitar sound. While he's singing, don't be cruel, hey baby, pound for pound. He's the hardest thing that's cool, Elvis Presley, for president. For president.
Heartbreak Hotel and his suede shoes. He walks away with all my blues. Take my troubles, take my pain, load 'em on that mystery train. My boy Elvis, real rock. My boy Elvis, real rock. With bambling, ooh, Elvis, sing to me.
He's all for love, 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 love. He's all for kiss, kiss, kiss. He's all for hug, 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 hug. Who else can give you this? Get up, get in the swim. Start swinging to the pole. Now go get in the swim. Give it all your heart and soul because a vote for him is a vote for rock and roll.
Ooh, I'm so mad about you, Elvis. Oh, I'm so mad about you, Elvis.
Dear Elvis, I'm writing you this letter. To me, you are the most.
Elvis Presley for president.
This is the Elvis Presley story, and I'm your host, Wink Martindale. So far, I've remained anonymous in telling this story, but back in '57, I had a TV dance party on WHBQ in Memphis, and Elvis was one of my in-person guests. Actually, I didn't know he was coming until just before the show. While he was with me, of course, I asked him a few questions. Here's a portion of that tape, which shows, as well as anything, Elvis's quick sense of humor.
You have experienced a phenomenal rise to popularity, Elvis, in the course of a few months' time. How did you first feel when your records first started to be accepted by the people and bought by the public? Didn't you have a sort of a sensation?
Well, I tell you, Wink, it all happened so fast, and so I didn't even have time to think about it. Everything just
like that,
you know. And it just kept going, and it's still doing that way, and I can't even think about it. In fact, I don't even like to work in the mornings. I'm afraid I might wake up.
But it might be all over.
I'm afraid I might be back driving a truck.
That brings about this. People everywhere say, well, I know, and you've heard it too, more than likely, all this type of thing is just a craze and a fad, and like other fads and personalities in the past, Presley and rock and roll music will depart in due time. What is your feeling about this?
I'm inclined to agree with them. I mean, people change. I mean, sometimes they like you, and then again, later on they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the rock and roll is real hot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. It's very good. It has a feeling, and people enjoy it. People enjoy dancing to it. And there's some very beautiful records made in rock and roll style, stuff like The Magic Touch, The Great Pretender, and stuff like that. I mean, you know, they just don't make any prettier songs than that.
Well, now, when you were graduated from Humes High School, did you expect to pursue singing and...
I didn't even expect to get out of Humes High School.
People like to rock, some people like to roll, but moving and the grooving gonna satisfy my soul. Have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Send to the stores, buy some more. Let's have a party tonight. I've never kissed a bear, I've never kissed a goon, but I can shake a little bit. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Send to the stores, buy some more. Let's have a party tonight. Now Honky Tonky Joe is knocking at the door. Really gonna set him on the floor. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Send to the stores, buy some more. Let's have a party tonight. The meat is on the stove, the bread is getting hot. Everybody gonna taste the pot of Mama Shot. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Let's have a party. Send it to the stores, buy some more. Let's have a party tonight. We're gonna have a party tonight.
Just a few years later, Elvis would go into seclusion and give no interviews at all. In '57, he was giving them left and right. At one point, he even provided a recorded interview, which was pressed between the pages of TV Guide.
When you hear rock and roll, it gets you on fire, or?
Not when I just hear it on the radio. When I'm doing it on the stage, you have to put on a show for people. In other words, people can buy your records and hear you sing, and they don't have to come out to hear you sing. You have to put on a show in order to draw a crowd.
Yeah.
If I just stood out there and sang and never moved, people would say, "Oh my goodness, I can stay home and listen to his records."
That's right.
But you have to give them a show, something to talk about.
Elvis was still laughing at himself, but now he was showing himself to be candid, as well as humorous.
The very first appearance after I started recording, I was on a show in Memphis where I started doing that. I was on a show as an extra added single, a big jamboree in an outdoor theater, outdoor auditorium, and I came out on stage and I was scared stiff. It was my first big appearance in front of an audience. And I came out and I was doing a fast type tune, one of my first records, and everybody was hollering, and I didn't know what they were hollering at. Everybody was screaming and everything. And then I came off stage, and my manager told me that they was hollering because I was wiggling. Well, I went back out for an encore, and I did a little more, and the more I did, the wilder they went.
In a press conference in late summer '57, Elvis spoke of the crowd reaction again. And again he turned his comment into a self-effacing joke.
Elvis, your actions make quite a reaction in the audience. What is your opinion of the audience?
Well, I mean, I would make it would look pretty funny out there without one, but actually, I suppose you're talking about all the yelling and everything.
That's right.
Actually, it's good because it covers up my mistakes, you see. I mean, whenever I hit a sour note, well, nobody knows it but me.
When you see things sold on the street, some of them saying, "I like Elvis," and others saying other things, do you get money for each kind? Do you get a percentage when they sell an "I hate Elvis" button?
To be truthful, I really don't know.
It's hard to keep track.
Yes, it is. In fact, I don't know who sells the "I hate Elvis" buttons.
Well, it's the same man who sells the "I like."
He's a communist.
Between interviews and press conferences, Elvis returned to Hollywood to make movies. One of them was Jailhouse Rock. Two of the Jordanaires, Gordon Stoker and Ray Walker, share their memories of that first day in the MGM recording studio.
The contracts read that we'd start at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. We got there at 10 o'clock at the studio at MGM, and we sang spirituals till like 1, and all these officials are standing around dying. Let's get on with the music, you see. But Presley wasn't in the mood, and he told him no, said, I'm not in the mood yet.
And he wasn't being hard to get along with.
Right. He just wasn't in the mood. And so when
we
broke for lunch, and they came around to the Jordanaires and said, "Hey, you guys get him off this stuff." But we couldn't do it. If we did whatever Presley wanted to do, you see.
Well, in fact, they said if he starts singing, don't sing with him.
That's right. They said if he starts singing, don't sing with him.
So Elvis came back
right.
from dinner, and he
And we
started
didn't sing with
the
him.
piano. Nobody was singing. He says, "Hey, what's wrong with you guys?"
And so it fell my duty to say, Elvis, they told us we couldn't sing with you. We had to sing the material, the songs that they wanted us to sing. And it made him, he got up and he said, if I want to bring you guys out here and sing the entire week of spirituals, this is what we'll do. And so he left. He just completely left.
Just
and
stopped the session.
the next morning he came in beautiful, all smiles, and we did the soundtrack and did it beautiful.
Up next on the Elvis Presley story, another song from Jailhouse Rock. A song which would become an Elvis Presley trademark more than 10 years later in Las Vegas. You're listening to the Elvis Presley story.
You don't know any dance steps that I knew. No one else can love me like you do. I don't know why my heart flips. I only know it does. I wonder why I love you, baby. I guess it's just because you're so square. Baby, I don't care. Baby, I don't care. Baby, I don't care. I don't know why my heart flips. I only know it does. I wonder why I love you, baby. I guess it's just because you're so square. Baby, I don't care. Baby, I don't care. Baby, I don't care.
Troubles came to Elvis in September 1957 when Scotty Moore and Bill Black announced they were leaving his backup band. They said they'd been making only $100 a week while at home in Memphis, just $200 a week on the road, and they wanted a raise. They argued, and they left. So when Elvis made a return appearance at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair in Tupelo, there were new musicians behind him. If, in retrospect, Elvis seems to have underpaid his sidemen, he was nothing but charitable to Tupelo. The fair manager, J.M. Savory, tells the story.
I offered them $10,000. Colonel Parker and his father just laughed at it. Said that they wouldn't begin to move anywhere for $10,000, but they would come for nothing. Provided every cent of revenue derived from this to given to his Elvis Presley Center.
Scotty Moore and Bill Black rejoined Elvis for his next appearances, first in Hollywood, then in Honolulu, where even the press had to pay for tickets. By now, Colonel Parker was giving nothing away. Also by now, it was time for the release of Elvis's first perennial, his Christmas album. Elvis sang some traditional carols, and most agreed he sang them well. But some people said no. The album was banned on most Canadian stations, and a Los Angeles disc jockey refused to play the carols, saying, "That's like having Tempest Storm give Christmas gifts to my kids." You decide. Here's Elvis's version of "O Little Town of Bethlehem."
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars move by, yet in thy dark streets shine the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all my years are met in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary and gathered all above. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. O morning stars together proclaim thy holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to men on earth. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee light above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars go by, yet in thy dark streets shine the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all years are met in thee tonight.
Another song on the album, A Christmas Blues, became a standard in Elvis's holiday repertoire.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I'll be so blue just thinking about you. Decorations of red on a Christmas tree won't be the same, dear, if you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue your Christmas a while, but I have a blue, 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 blue Christmas. You'll be doing all right with your Christmas a while, but I have a blue, 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 blue Christmas.
It was during the 57 holiday season that Elvis started his fourth movie, King Creole. For many months, he had been traveling with an entourage, friends from Memphis who served as companions and bodyguards. One of them was Alan Fortas, a gregarious ex-football player from Vanderbilt University. He shares his memories of Elvis's first location shooting.
Never in my life have I seen crowds like that. We would have to leave location, and the cab would just almost have to run over people to get through them. They would just converge on the cab and shake it and try to get to Elvis for autographs or speak to him. In fact, some days we filmed at lakes and would have to leave by police boat to go 20 or 30 miles down the lake to get out of there. We got on the elevator one time, and of course the elevators were not allowed to stop on our floor that we were staying on. So we got on the elevator, and of course Elvis had on Levi's and a T-shirt, which he had been filming in, and we got on the elevator, and I think we were staying on the 12th floor or something like that. And we told the elevator operator, we said, 12th floor, please. He said, nah. We said, why not? He said, I can't stop on the 12th floor. We said, well, why not? He said, Elvis Presley is there. We said, well, that's fine. This is him. He said, you're not Elvis. We had to go to the 14th floor, 13th floor or something and walk back down.
As Elvis was dodging fans in New Orleans, his latest single appeared in the top 10. The co-writer, Jerry Lieber, tells us about it.
It was really one of the most beautiful interpretations that Elvis did on any of our songs. The mix and the performance and the arrangement were particularly good.
That's what you say each time I hold you this way. When I feel like this and I want to kiss you, baby, don't say and I want to hold you, baby. Don't say don't, don't. If you think that this is just a game I'm playing, if you think that I don't mean every word I'm saying, don't feel that say don't, please don't.
As Don't climbed to #1, as King Creole was completed and readied for distribution, fate dealt Elvis what his fans called the lowest blow. In the next chapter of the Elvis Presley story, Elvis the Pelvis goes to war.